President Biden traveled to Crystal Lake, Illinois on Wednesday to tout his infrastructure proposal for working American families. He highlighted the need for advancements in what he calls human infrastructure. While Democrats are still nailing down a price tag, they are planning to pass the plan through reconciliation. This, of course, is a process that just requires a majority support. Meantime, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell says that his party is ready to put up a fight against Democrats' attempts. For more on this, I want to bring in Heather Boushey. She's a member of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Heather, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. So as we're talking about this infrastructure package, we're always asking the question about whether Republicans will come on board. But this is a White House that really needs to also keep its Democratic coalition intact. And some Democratic lawmakers say that the bipartisan infrastructure deal falls short of addressing those so-called human infrastructure needs like climate change, child care, health care. So how is the White House, balancing all of those demands of progressives and those moderate Democrats?
Well, the president has been very clear, first of all, that inaction is not an option. And he's worked very hard to have this bipartisan proposal that he's worked very hard with bipartisan members of Congress on. And that deal is focused on the kinds of physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, broadband, making sure we get lead pipes out of going into people's homes. But there is also the more fulsome agenda that the president laid out when he was a candidate under the Build Back Better banner that focuses on making sure that families have what they need to be successful in the labor market and make sure that their loved ones are well cared for, and to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to protect the planet and have a competitive U.S. economy. So combined, this is really the president's agenda, but he's both committed to working with folks from the other side of the aisle and making sure that he focuses on delivering to the American people this fulsome package, which, time and time again, we've seen so many polls. This is what the American people want. They want investments in care, in child care, in the child tax credit, paid family leave. They want to make sure that the climate is being protected and that we are creating these good jobs alongside the more traditional physical infrastructure.
Right, and part of this deal depends on it's a two-pronged approach. So getting the smaller package, but also this other package through reconciliation. And Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has said this week that Republicans are going to push back on Democrats' plan to pass their bill through that reconciliation process. So how would this administration respond to that?
Well, first of all, the bipartisan package can go through regular order, and it needs the support of at least 60 senators. It needs the support of Republicans, but the Democrats do have control, and they are able to do things through other pieces of legislative order. I think what's really important here is that President Biden is focusing on what is going to deliver for the American people, what is going to help grow, develop, and sustain America's middle class, and that this package of proposals are things that people have long wanted. So, we can talk about the shenanigans going on Capitol Hill, but at the end of the day, the president is really focused on making sure that we deliver for the American people and get these things done.
And on that current bipartisan infrastructure deal that deals more with kind of the traditional definition of infrastructure, what should the average American expect to see from something like that?
Well, they can expect to see, bridges being fixed, roads being repaved. If they live in a community where there is still lead pipes going into people's homes or schools, they can expect to see those fixed and addressed. They can expect to see broader access to broadband, which we've learned over the past year is so incredibly important. So these are just some basics. And, when that happens, we know that that is good for families, it's good for commuters, it's good for businesses. I mean, this is the way that America works, is grounded in our infrastructure. And so that's what the American people can look forward to.
And as the president is out there trying to sell these packages, he's arguing that the U.S. needs significant amounts of money to really structurally overhaul the economy. But it also seems like the economy is bouncing back, and employers are actually struggling to hire. So how does the administration reconcile those two dynamics?
Well, when President Biden came into office, the first thing he did was work to pass the American Rescue Plan so that we could make sure to get those vaccines out, so that everyone could get vaccinated, so that we could stop the progression of this virus, which we're working so hard to do, and make sure that the economy was intact while we did so. So this has actually been quite successful. We've seen a number of economic forecasters increasing their estimates of economic growth this year because of the success that we've had over the past few months. We've seen the unemployment rate come down. We've seen over 500,000 jobs, about 560,000 jobs created each month for the past few months on average. So this is really a testament to having a plan, following through, and understanding that economic policy was core to this puzzle. It was core to making sure that the economy could get back on track. And as we're looking forward over the medium to long term, this Build Back Better agenda is focused on making sure that people have what they need to get to work and be successful. Families need access to safe, affordable childcare. Everybody saw that over the past year. If you can't get access to care, you can't get to work. Families need also access to safe and affordable home care services for the aging or the disabled in their families, so that workers can get to work and they know their loved ones are well cared for. We also have seen the enormous success of the expansions of the child tax credit that are going to start going out into people's bank accounts in just a couple of weeks now. So, and the ability of the government to get that up quickly. So these are all the kinds of things that we know are going to lay the foundation for the long term and for future U.S. economic competitiveness.
Right, but they also come with a pretty hefty price tag. And when we're talking about these various proposals, we're talking about a lot of money here. So, the average American who might be looking at those headlines and also wondering, how the economy is going to progress and how their own personal economies are going to survive, how does the White House, reconcile that and try to sell that?
Well, here's the thing. The president has laid out a fulsome tax agenda. And, he has had two red lines. One, inaction is not an option. And the second is that he is committed to not raising taxes on folks that earn less than $400,000 a year. And he has put together with his team a fulsome package that raises taxes on the corporations that can pay the most, the ones that are the most profitable, and making sure that we get out of the tax system those incentives to shift jobs overseas or to shift profits overseas, and make sure that the corporations are paying their fair share. At the same time, we need to make a historic investment in making sure that the IRS can actually just enforce the laws on the books with respect to the wealthiest Americans. We know that because of the systemic defunding of the IRS in recent decades, that they have not been able to make sure that those at the top of the income distribution pay the taxes that they owe. And so we estimate that you could get about $700 billion just from enforcing the laws on the books. So those are some of the proposals that the president has put forward, but they're focused on equity and making sure that the tax system rewards work and not wealth. And those have been fundamental, but let's be very clear. You can raise a lot of taxes to pay for this full agenda just through focusing on those kinds of policies.
Right, and all of this, of course, will require the work of Congress, so we'll see what they say when they return back to Washington after their July 4th recess. Heather Boushey from the White House Council of Economic Advisors, thank you.
Thank you.